G'day guys, JB here with the first video of the 2020-2021 NBA season, and these will be my predictions for what I feel will happen and some different events that will happen over the course of the season. We'll get an Eastern Conference preview, a Western Conference preview, our individual award winners, who are going to be the surprise packets, who are going to be the disappointments, and ultimately who is going to take out the 2020-2021 NBA championship. We'll start with a look over the Eastern Conference. As you can see there, I have my top 8 teams, my 1 through 8 on the left, and I have my bottom 7, 9 through 15 on the right. We'll start with my number 1 seed, and I feel the Brooklyn Nets will take the number 1 seed from the Milwaukee Bucks this season. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving look to be back healthy. Whether Durant is at 100% is another thing to tell. And the mental side of the game is certainly what seems to be hindering Kyrie Irving over the last couple of seasons. However, they have a lot of good pieces around them. They really didn't lose much out of their team, Brooklyn, and those two key additions, Kevin Durant being close to the best player in the NBA, a back-to-back finals MVP, former league MVP, 4-time scoring champion, one of the 25 best players to ever play in the NBA, in my opinion. To have him on your side, you can never rule it out. Again, Kyrie, one of the best offensive point guards going, and you also have all the supplementary players around them as well, who have been proven as starters and certainly players who can really push their case to earn contracts at some point in their career. You have to have Milwaukee at number 2, in my opinion. They did bum out in the second round, which was not ideal for them to start last season, but it is very easy to see why they are a contending team. Reigning, defending, back-to-back MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, as well as holding the title of the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. They have got some more pieces around him, key pieces like a Drew Holiday, Brook Lopez is still there, Chris Middleton is also still there. And they've also managed to get some other dribs and drabs in as well. Milwaukee are really keen to try and build around Giannis, who has signed a 5-year extension, as we know. So that will leave him at the team unless he requests a trade. He'll be with the team until his early 30s. By then, he will have a legacy. He already has one now, in my opinion, as the second greatest Buck to ever play the game. But if you can really build on it, get a couple of championships, maybe a couple of more MVPs, who knows? We'll be looking at potentially the greatest Milwaukee player of all time. Number 3, I have Miami. Again, the reigning Eastern Conference champions. You have to put some respect on them as a contender. There's no doubt about that. Jimmy Butler leading the way there, and again have a young core that maybe in 3 or 4 years you would thought were going to compete for a championship, but are now genuinely feeling like they can compete for a championship at the moment. Again, they've had a year under their belt. They've got a lot of good players, and hopefully everyone's going to be able to bounce back in some form as well. Win 6 games in the NBA Finals with the Los Angeles Lakers, who have gotten even stronger this year. We'll touch on them shortly. But, yeah, for me, you have to respect Miami, and I think them at the 3rd seed is about correct. I tossed and turned between Toronto and Boston as far as who my 4th and 5th seeds were. Much of a muchness. I've gone Boston just over Toronto. They've managed to offload Gordon Hayward, picked up Tristan Thompson notably as well, so hopefully they're able to get some more movement through their younger core there in Tatum, Brown and Smart. Kemba Walker is still there as well, so he'll need to pick up his offensive game. Tristan Thompson, a key signing there as well, has strengthened their big men options. And again, Boston coached by Brad Stevens. They are a capable squad. Jason Tatum is going to need to go to that next level. We're talking he's going to need to be a genuine top 5 MVP candidate if Boston are going to go all the way this year. 3 Eastern Conference finals in the previous 4 seasons. They've had a really good run, and they're going to want to continue that. Toronto, again, 2019 champions, pushed into the second round, just gone. They're going to need to do a little more, however, to maintain that. Siakam has a big contract. Van Vliet has a big contract. Lowry has a big contract. So, these are pieces that need to be there for the long haul and could be potential bargaining chips if they do need to move them on. Lowry, the senior of that group. They did lose Marc Gasol out of that team. I do believe Serge Ibaka is not there anymore. He may be. I'd have to double check that. So apologies on the blank there. But Marc Gasol leaving has certainly weakened their defensive stocks. So fourth and fifth seed, I think that's about right for them and the way they compete. Again, a solid regular season team. I thought Nick Nurse was a fitting coach of the year. Well, he should have been coach of the year. I'm pretty sure he was. But again, he led that Toronto squad to the same number of wins. In fact, they had a better winning record last year than they did in their championship year on percentage. 6 through 8 was really interesting for me. I thought there was, we're trying to fit 5 teams into 3 separate spots here. But I think Philadelphia at the 6th seed is smart. I'm yet to see them do enough in the postseason to where they can deliver a championship level team and a genuine contending team. There's always issues with Joel Embiid. Ben Simmons has offensive issues. Defensively, I don't think they have the worry, particularly with Simmons on the team. And they did get rid of Horford's contract, which has managed to free up a bit of cap space. And I know they were trying to make a play for James Harden. They would have to get rid of Ben Simmons, and Daryl Morey was not going to let that happen. So, yeah, I thought Philadelphia sitting in the 6th spot was about right. They can cause some upsets. And, again, don't get me wrong, I feel that when they generally are on song, they can be one of the best teams in the East, but I just don't see the consistency in it. I have Indiana at number 7. Again, Indiana's a team that will consistently be there. They got rid of Coach McMillan, so that was an interesting move there. But generally, they have their squad back. If Victor Oladipo can come out healthy to complement a Domantas Sabonis, there's a 2 all-star team there. You've got a nice complementary piece in Brogdon. TJ Warren has proven what he can do. The Holiday brothers have proven what they can do. Miles Turner is key as well. Jeremy Lamb with injuries at the moment is a concern. But again, Indiana, I think, are comfortably a playoff team. And I think Atlanta, with the moves they've made, with the expectations of Trae Young, with John Collins now potentially going to enter the market, he's going to want to have a big year as well. Flew under the radar at 20-10 on nearly 59% shooting last year. There's a lot of work that's going to go into this Atlanta squad, and I think they're going to really make a push for the 8th seed. Again, all the pieces are falling into place. John Collins has opted out of his contract, so he's going to want to go and get some numbers up, really improve his stocks on the free agency market. And I think the determination and the expectation as well at this point on Atlanta is that they need to make the playoffs. So they will round out my top 8 there, and I think they do scrape the 8th seed. My bottom 7, so my 9th and 10th seed are Orlando and Washington. The big kicker for me for Orlando, while they didn't really lose too much out of their squad, Jonathan Isaac being out for 12 months really lowers their defensive stocks. And for a team that struggles to hit 500, although consistently making playoffs with the likes of Vucevic, a Fournier, you have a Terrence Ross there, you have Aaron Gordon, obviously. Isaac is the key element there. You could argue he is almost their most valuable player. And him not being there for the year with an ACL injury is going to be a problem. A potential DPOY candidate, I believe him and Anthony Davis were the only people with 2.5 steals and 2.5 blocks at one point in the season last year. And again, that was mainly on games and stuff like that saw Davis ahead in my mind. But Isaac, clearly their best player defensively. You've got Vucevic, who's a 20-10 guy, and plenty of complementary offensive pieces. But I just don't think with the depth that's starting to go through the Eastern Conference the last couple of years that they are a certainty. They are a potential chance again. I think that you could really fill out 6 through 10 in any order with these guys potentially. But I just think the defensive mechanism that is Jonathan Isaac not being there for Orlando will cost them. I have Washington at number 10, despite the fact they have acquired Russell Westbrook. The big kicker there is defensively. I just still think they're struggling. They got rid of that John Wall contract, which was a bonus for them. But, I'm really struggling to see the defensive side of the ball here. I mean, Washington were great to watch offensively at times last year, 130, 140-point games. But when you're conceding 150, you're not going to win. It's as simple as that. Bradley Beal with a nice complementary piece there in Russell Westbrook. He hasn't had a complementary guard consistently for the last 2 years. John Wall's been out, and Isaiah Thomas really fell flat. But Washington have a few nice pieces there, a couple of bigger bodies that can also work. But I just don't think at the moment they are a playoff team. Westbrook might change that. A former MVP does bring some credibility to that lineup, but I don't think defensively they have it. Charlotte in at number 11. LaMelo Ball and Gordon Hayward, they're 2 big signings there. Nick Batum off the squad heading to the Clippers. But again, I'm just struggling to see defensively where they're going to get it done. LaMelo will be a highlight package, there's no doubt. He and Devontae Graham, along with Terry Rozier, and Gordon Hayward, that's not a bad 4 top-tier players, but lacking defensively there, in my opinion. Hayward hasn't been the same since his broken leg, and I just wonder what Lamelo will actually take away from a Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier, so I think some chemistry might need to be built there. And the bottom 4, I think, are self-explanatory. The Bulls, I really don't see the Bulls being anything much more than they were last year. The Knicks are too top-heavy as far as bigs, and they're lacking experience as well. Detroit, they do have Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose. I may have underrated these guys a little bit, but again, I really feel the bottom 4 of really each conference you could really put in any order. If Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose are firing away, there's no doubt about it. They can be a healthy tandem. There's potential 2 20-point-per-game guys, but again, I just don't see enough pieces around it. And you're going to have to ask Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose to both try and push 70 games out this year or close to it. In fact, that's a big ask for 2 guys who have struggled on that front. Rose has only done it once or twice in his career, and Blake Griffin struggled the last 4 or 5 years to really stay healthy. So if they can do that, they might jump up the seedings, but I don't see it happening. And Cleveland's pretty self-explanatory now. Kevin Love and Andre Drummond are the factor here. If Kevin Love can really get back to some of that Minnesota form, maybe get 1 year out of himself for his, 26 and 12. Colin Sexton's not a bad scoring guard. He's not great, but he's not bad. Larry Nance is able to do his bit as well when need be. C.D. Osman on that team as well. And if Andre Drummond can put in a 15-15 season, then maybe Cleveland can look a little bit more exciting. But on paper and what we're looking at the moment, I wouldn't suggest that they're going to be doing much. So I feel that's how the Eastern Conference will play out. Again, Brooklyn to take the top seed from Milwaukee and Miami. You then have Boston and Toronto filling that 4-5 spot out. 6 through 8 will be Philadelphia, Indiana, and Atlanta. Orlando and Washington probably knocking on the door for the playoffs. I think Charlotte are still 12 months to 2 years away from really being there. I think the chemistry and trying to find that defensive presence is a big factor. And then obviously you've got the Bulls who have a lot of work to do, the Knicks who have a lot of work to do, and the ups and downs of Detroit and Cleveland are really leaving them out of this one. The Western Conference should be no surprise here. Not much movement in my opinion, a couple of drops, a couple of lifts, and some consistency overall. I got the Lakers taking out the Western Conference. That should be an easy one there. They managed to bolster their bench, particularly with Harrell and Schroeder. You also have Marc Gasol there to try and lift a bit defensively. They did notably lose Rondo, JaVale McGee, Danny Green and Dwight Howard. However, Schroeder and Harrell are much younger and probably better offensive options. You still have the defensive presence of a Gasol, and you do have a bit of that squad signing back as well. So much of a muchness, but as far as youth and bench scoring, they have delivered some depth there. Again, LeBron and AD, if you want to go back through it as far as where they sit in their careers and potency, are arguably the most, probably the most decorated and certainly the most peak duo as far as a championship duo since Kobe, Shaq, and then if you want to really go back then, you'd have to go back almost to West and Chamberlain as far as where they stacked up in the league. So again, the Lakers sitting pretty at the top of the Western Conference. I still have the Clippers at number 2. I feel they are a side that can deliver. Luke Kennard, another big signing for them. Nick Batum joining them as well, but Kennard will provide some wing shooting as well. As much as that choke job really does hurt the legacy of a Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. I mean, I had Kawhi in my 50 best ever, and I really had to reconsider where he is now. And Paul George does have his moments, but he also has bad moments. So, they're very hot and cold. However, I can see them doing enough, and they still have a reasonably deep squad all the way through. So it's very hard to take away from that. Kawhi Leonard, again, all-NBA second team, all-defensive second team, all-star MVP, had a reasonable season until he fell apart in the second round. So I wouldn't expect him to be dropping off to the point where he's not a top 10 player in the league, let alone not a top 5 player in the league. And I just think the Clippers certainly are still going to have some of that depth. I think Dallas take the next step again at number 3. And I think that's off the back of Luka Doncic. He's going to put in a massive effort this year. You're going to have a Kristaps Porzingis, I do believe, still available if he hasn't had that meniscus issue dealt with. But again, Dallas, I do feel, are going to want to try and push that as well. And don't be surprised to see Mark Cuban really make an effort to bolster this side throughout the season. Denver, number 4, very hard to write off a team who had back-to-back 3-1 returns in the playoffs. They pushed it to 5 games in the Western Conference Finals. And I think you've just got to put some respect on them. There's no doubt about it. I wouldn't rate them as as good of a contender as those first 3 teams, for the simple fact that there's no one that puts that absolute killer instinct into me that they're going to run over the top and cost the team. Again, big factor though, Jamal Murray. You're going to have Will Barton and Gary Harris back healthy on this squad as well, so they'll be bolstered. And Michael Porter Jr. looks like he's set for a breakout year. So plenty of rounded depth there in Denver. There's really building something. And, of course, Nikola Jokic as that facilitating big, really going to push his case. And, again, a guy who's probably, not rated highly by a lot of people. You'd have to suggest, depending on Denver's success, just how high Jokic gets in that MVP conversation. 5 and 6, Utah and Portland. I probably could have had them in either direction, but I think Utah are probably only 1 or 2 more seasons left in their current mould, particularly off the back of signing this big Rudy Gobert contract. Back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year, the All-NBA teams and the All-Defensive teams earn the contract. Is he worth it? I don't know. You still have Donovan Mitchell. You still have Joe Ingles. You still have Boban Bogdanovic coming back into, or Bojan. Boban or Bojan? I get confused with them at times, but to me, there's no doubt about it. They are still a competing team. Jordan Clarkson, Mike Conley, they can really still keep in that middle part of the Western Conference and cause some headaches for some teams as well. They're going to be a barometer team. I think if you can really compete or beat Utah, you're definitely a playoff team. If you're nowhere near the Jazz, you're probably not at standard. They're not the standard bearer. Obviously, the Lakers are, but they're a good measuring stick in the Western Conference. Portland, again, they need to have a do-or-die season. I think that's a case for them. You're going to have Nurkic. You are going to have McCollum. You're going to have Lillard. You're going to have Melo and some of their other pieces as well, which have proven pivotal. They really started to make that run there towards the end of the bubble. Got blown out of the water in the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. They were the first sub-500 Western Conference 8th seed since Kevin Garnett took the Timberwolves to the playoffs in 1997. So, they're going to want to look to make that jump, but they're going to need to find that form early. That's always a key factor, always has been a key factor, is the slow start Portland can generally have to a season. If they can avoid that and they can stay above 500 consistently for most of the year, I think pushing that 6, 7, 8 area is reasonable for them. I have Golden State at number 7, and the big factor there is Steph Curry. There's no doubt about it. He's got some nice young pieces around him. The absence of Klay Thompson is really what throws me from putting them further up this list. I think if Klay was healthy, then you'd probably see them close to that 4th seed realistically, with Draymond Green, with Andrew Wiggins, and the other pieces they've got around them. However, it's a big out for Klay not to be there. This will be 2 straight years with no basketball for him, and I wouldn't be surprised whether Golden State, and the big factor there is just the offense, how much he draws the defense there on offense. He's a good catch-and-shoot guy. We all know the 60 points, 11 dribble game. But he's a catch-and-shoot guy. He's never shot under 40% for his career from deep, capable offensively, a good two-way 3-and-D guy. But again, Steph is the big factor here, and the reason I have them at 7th, Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins are going to be big as well. Draymond's really going to have to finally step up as his 3rd option consistently. And Andrew Wiggins is going to need to turn up every night of the week. But Steph Curry being back is a big factor there. He's probably got a couple of good years left in him. Again, age is becoming a factor with some of these guys. You do have to consider it. And on the 8th seed, it is the Chris Paul effect. They have plenty of pieces there in Phoenix for this to get done. Not a make or break season, but Devin Booker's been in this league. This is going to be year 6 for him. He's got Chris Paul around him. He won't need as much ball in hand anymore, and Chris Paul can still generate a bit of his own offense, and he's far better defensively than most of the point guards that have played next to Booker. So I think that Phoenix can grab that 6th, can grab that 8th seed. Had a massive run at the back end of the bubble to try and get into the, towards the playing tournament to try and get in to the playoffs. Didn't happen for them, but I think Chris Paul is that key piece. Paul just happens to be a guy that wherever he goes, teams suddenly become not contenders, but teams that can certainly push into the second round. New Orleans became a team that can push into the second round. The Clippers became a team that can push into the second round. The Rockets nearly made an NBA Finals because of Chris Paul. And OKC went from a team no one thought would make the playoffs to a potential 5th seed last year. So he's a big catch for them, and I think this is the year that they start making a move. You then have your next three, and for me, I mean, realistically, I think 8, 9, 10, and 11 are very close to one another. It's just going to be a matter of form. I think Memphis only just miss out once again. Ja Morant, massive. Jaren Jackson Jr., Jonas Valanciunas, Dylan Brooks, Brandon Clark. They have some pieces there in that team that can certainly get it done. They are a young core, and you'd have to imagine Ja Morant's going to take another step this season. It's the consistency out of Valanciunas that's a big factor when you've got a big who can be a 20 and 10 guy one night and then struggle to get 4 rebounds and 5 points the next night. You need that consistency out of him to perform. Jaren Jackson Jr., it's known that he can perform. Dylan Brooks and Brandon Clark played some nice supporting roles as well, so hopefully they can get a bit of help there. San Antonio at number 10, and I think the big factor there is the fact they are not the same defensive team they used to be. If they're not putting the effort in defensively, they are struggling. LaMarcus Aldridge, I would have suggested, is on the last 3-4 years of his career, slowly winding down. DeMar DeRozan has showed spurts. However, he's going to need to lift a bit more. Derek White is also a big factor for them as well. So hopefully the Spurs can try and get it together. You can never quite rule them out. They missed the playoffs for the first time since 1997. Since 1998 last year, ironically, first time since 97 they missed out. Managed to get some guy called Tim Duncan, who turned into a top 5 player all time, but they're going to need to really lift their consistency. They're going to need to play both ends, and that'll be the big factor for the Spurs. The Pelicans at number 10, and again, this is a side that's going to have Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson in it. There's a lot that can be done with this team, there's no doubt about it, but it's just a matter of where they can fit in consistently and trying to get it done. Defensively, they're also going to need to lift as well. I think they can fit anywhere in from an 8th seed to a 8th seed to the 11th seed. It's a bit of a bit of a jungle in between there as to where they can be. Capable players and capable scorers. But youth is on their side as far as building, but it's certainly not on their side as far as playoff experience. And I just think that'll be a factor. I've got Houston bottoming out at 12. Yes, they did make the playoffs last year, but I just think the big factor overall with Houston is the James Harden issue. They'll eventually get rid of him. John Wall has barely played in 2 years. DeMarcus Cousins has barely played in 2 years. Clemens has just done an Achilles, so there's a big there's an issue there as well. Now, they do have Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker. That would be nice, but I believe Robert Covington has been removed from the team. If James Harden's heading out, 3-time scoring champ and MVP, well, I don't necessarily think he's the most efficient player on the planet. It's a big loss by any measurement. So the chemistry issues, new coach, I think they're just going to try and bottom out, give it a bit of time. And the big factor is the fact that most of these guys haven't played together. Cameron Woods signed with the team. That's a positive in my opinion. They needed a bit more height back in that side. But, yeah, I just don't see how we're going to be able to try and run. And I say I am a Rockets fan. I don't get how we're going to be able to combine and work as a team with 2 guys who haven't played together since college, 1 guy who wants out, and your best signing at the moment was a free agent who was playing essentially 4th and 5th option in Detroit, who I really don't see as being more than a bottom 4 team in the East. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do. Hopefully they can push through it. If they click and things work, there's no doubt I think they can be a playoff team. But with the writing on the wall, I see them being a bottom 4 team. I think Sacramento have run their race as well. I don't see them being much, particularly with the way Buddy Hield and De'Aaron Fox are just so inconsistent. De'Aaron Fox can be an all-star player when he's on his night, but Sacramento just don't seem to really be able to have the pieces around them to get it done. I think they'll flounder as a bottom 3 team. Minnesota, similar. Now, Ricky Rubio and Karl Anthony Towns are the key there. If Karl Anthony Towns can continue on the stretch he's having as probably the best shooting big man in the league, then that could change things as well. But, I just don't really see how this combination is going to work unless you're going to try and run a pick-and-roll situation with Rubio And that creates a good dynamic there for Towns to roll in and out. But they need the defensive pressure, and outside of those two guys offensively, they're going to really struggle, in my opinion. And I think they're going to bottom out. It'll be the OKC Thunder. They have picked up Al Horford, but I mean, Al Horford's old. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, and alike are going to really try and push through. But the Chris Paul factor is, in my opinion, too much to overcome. So I think they will bottom out as well. They're a bottom three team in the West, in my opinion. Again, rounding out, I think the Lakers take the Western Conference first seed. You will see the Clippers compete with it as well as Dallas, Denver, and Utah. Your measuring sticks. If you can compete with them really closely or beat them, you're definitely a playoff team. If you're nowhere near, don't even bother. Then you've got your Portland and Golden State. I think they will rotate between the 6, 7, and 8 spot. And then 8 through 11, Phoenix, Memphis, San Antonio, the Pelicans, and then your bottom 4 for me will be the Rockets, the Kings, the Timberwolves, and the Thunder. Have a quick breeze over our major award winners. The main award of the year, the MVP, I think will go to Luka Doncic if the Mavs get a top 3 seed. This is a guy who's going to really push for that 30-point triple-double this season. He's got a couple of pieces in the works as well. And this is a guy really wanting to take the step in his 3rd season. He would, by my estimation, become the youngest MVP in league history by doing it. And you've only got to see predictions early are that he is the MVP favourite. So if you're a top 3 seed in the West, particularly in a conference that's going to include the likes of LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, you've got Nikola Jokic, you've got Jamal Murray, guys like that who are playing in this Steph Curry being back as well. You're going to have Chris Paul and Devin Booker, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, all those guys. This is a deep conference. But I think if Dallas take that top 3 seed, Luka is your MVP of the league. Defensive Player of the Year, he was an all-defensive second-team member last year, and I think he's going to really help Miami continue to stay as a contender. That'll be Bam Adebayo. Nearly won the Most Improved Player of the Year award last year and was an all-defensive second-team member. If he's been able to put work in the off-season, don't be surprised to see Bam jumping out of the gym, blocking shots. He's very serviceable on ball as well, a good rotation defender, good pick-and-pop defender. I would like to see, and I think Bam Adebayo will be your Defensive Player of the Year. Rookie of the Year, and I think this is a glitz and glamour answer on my behalf even so, LaMelo Ball. You just see the focus on his highlights as far as his passing ability and his flashiness. That does grab a lot of attention. Unfortunately, style over substance does get you a lot in these awards. And LaMelo has just been throwing passes left, right, and centre. He's going to have some reasonable offensive help around him as well. And if you see the likes of a Gordon Hayward lift their production a little, if you see a Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier lift from last year, particularly if Melo's producing, then you will see him with the Rookie of the Year award. And I think he's earned the right to be favourite there. Most improved player, I think Michael Porter Jr. takes the step up here. He'll jump into, and I believe Torrey Craig was the 4th option there for Denver last year. He's no longer there. I think he's going to step up, take that spot for the Most Improved Player award. Capable player, we saw what he was able to do when he was healthy, consistently a double-double guy, and I think he certainly takes the step to Most Improved this season. 6th Man of the Year, I think, is going to come from the Nets. Who that is, I don't know. And I think that's all going to depend on their starting lineups. You have the likes of Durant and Kyrie Irving. They're certainly going to be starting. You then have Jarrett Allen, who you think would be their starter, but you also have Caris LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Timothy Luwawu, Cabarrot, Joe Harris, Tyler Johnson, guys like that. They've got to fit into the rotation somewhere, and there's plenty of firepower for those guys who could be coming off the bench. So I couldn't give you a specific answer, but I do feel it will be coming from the Brooklyn Nets. And I think Eric Spoelstra reaffirms himself as, if not the best coach in the league. Miami get a top 3 seed. He continues to manage that roster of really growing talent. Your Robinsons, your Nuns, your Heroes, your Bams, your Dragic's, your Iguodalas, your Butlers. And I think if he can make them a top 3 seed in what's going to be a very competitive Eastern Conference, there's no doubt about it, he will be Coach of the Year. The two surprise packets out of the East, I think Atlanta will surprise everyone, and I think Phoenix will surprise everyone coming from where they have been. They finally have the talent around them, and I think they will be playoff teams, no doubt about it. Not make or break, but they've certainly got two young guys who want to establish themselves as the leaders of their franchise. Trae Young certainly is the poor man Steph Curry by most people's assessment at the moment, so he's going to want to have a breakout year once again, nearly 30 points a game, but he's got the pieces around him to be that double-double guy with the assists. He needs to lift defensively, and I think the pressure's going to be on because he's going to be the focus of the defence as well. So if he can really try and maintain his production, probably get a few more people involved, utilise a passing game to get Atlanta up there as well. You know, I think they could really surprise some teams, and I think they will finish in the 8th seed. And Phoenix, it's do or die. I think they really need to come out and show everyone what they're made of. Devin Booker, one of the 3 best 2 guards in the league, and certainly a guy you want to have the ball in the hands by the end of the game. Chris Paul, similarly, as far as one guard's ball in the hand to do what they need to do. And I really think that they might even be some teams they can shock in the Western Conference, and I feel they will be the surprise packets. They will be the movers and shakers, so to speak. They will be jumping into the playoffs this year for their respective conferences. And overall, I think our underachievers, Washington, even though they've got Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, very similar to previous years. They don't have the defensive armour to really put through. They've got plenty of young talent around them. Bertans, Bryant, Hashimura are very capable players as well. Beal and Westbrook leading that team. That's going to be very interesting to see, but I don't think they have the defensive stocks. While putting 140 on the board's nice, conceding 160 is not going to change the game. And I think this could be the last roll of the dice for the Spurs before they go into a full-blown rebuild, potentially. Again, LaMarcus Aldridge, limited time left. DeMar DeRozan, inconsistently performing. And while Derek White is proving to be one of the young foundations of this team, there's only so much he can do. And I think it's going to be an underachieving year for the Spurs. I think they, again, on the ability and on previous past marks, they are and can be a playoff team. However, I just think they're going to lack defensively, and, you know, they're going to be a mid-30 win team potentially. And for the expectation that the Spurs fan base has delivered over the last 20 years, that is more than an underachievement by their standards. So I think these two guys will be the underachieving teams of their respective conferences. Finally, the big one, and this is the one everyone wants to know about, who is going to win the 2020-2021 NBA Championship? For me, back-to-back, I think they'll repeat the Los Angeles Lakers. They've got the best player in the game in Anthony Davis, one of the 5 to 10 greatest players ever in LeBron James, and 2 best six men in the league on their team as well. You know, they've got a lot of bench scoring, they've got a strong starting lineup. And there's no reason why anyone shouldn't be favoured for them as well. I think they probably get more of a challenge this year. And again, the COVID situation is going to really determine how this league plays out. But for me, should be no question, the Lakers are your reigning defending NBA champs. They should be favourites going in as well. So, I mean, they're favourites with the bookies. Most people are predicting them to win the championship. There's no reason they can't go back-to-back and really push through. LeBron to get a handful of rings changes things as well. Davis with 2 championships as the leading scorer in one of them as well. So, you know, that's a big factor as well. We'll see what happens. But for me, the Lakers are pretty much the odds-on favourites. Will take on the Brooklyn Nets, I do believe, in the NBA final. So LeBron-Durant matchup is very mouth-watering, and some good bench production there. Some unique starting lineups, mouth-watering as well. But I think the Lakers take it. Let's be honest. There's no one in the NBA organisation that would not want a Los Angeles championship coming out of COVID to try and once again build up the reputation of the league. So it'll be interesting to see what we can get there. But the Lakers, I feel, will be repeat champions, your 2021 NBA champions. And finally, let's have a look over the socials. You can find me on Facebook at JB's NBA. Find me on Twitter, Justin_G_Bryan, and on YouTube at Justin Bryan. Thank you very much for watching the video. These have been my preseason predictions for the 2020-2021 NBA season. Just a heads up of the 12 major predictions I made last year. I got 2 correct, which is, you know, kind of scary in a way. But in any event, we will continue to push on. We'll see where we can get a bit closer this year, a bit more realism, hopefully, and a little less unpredictability. Hopefully the league can continue to push on as well. Anyway, guys, that's been me. Thanks for checking out the video. These were my predictions for the 2020-2021 NBA season. Let's see how they pan out. Opening night, less than 24 hours away. Cannot wait for hoops to be back. That's been me, guys. I'm out.